Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my virtual world Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post the March 2021 ban list. With the latest list, there was actually nothing hit for the actual virtual world cards, but True King of All Calamities being hit was something that a lot of people expected. It was just an overpowered card being used in this deck especially, and with it, it definitely does change some of the options we have for this deck. Some people have been trying some crazy techs, which I am trying one of them out in the deck. It might be a terrible idea, but if you didn't want to run it, you can try some of the other different options that I'll say at the end of the video as well. But still, a big fan of the overall play style of the deck. Definitely, an interesting one to pick up to learn how to use. But let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the virtual world monsters, I'm running 3 virtual world Mahim Lulu. With this one, you have just different options in the X deck for Synchro and Xyz being your main go-to summons in the whole deck. If this card's in your hand, you can target one virtual world card you control and send one virtual world card of a different type, monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the graveyard. If you do special summon this card, then you can add one virtual world card of the third type from your deck to your hand, except for Lulu. And for the rest of this turn, you can only special summon level or rank 3 or higher monsters, and you can only use the effect of Lulu once per turn. So not only does this card have an easy special summon, it also just basically has setup for your deck, being able to then rely on this card for that playstyle of searching out any of the other cards that you didn't search with this, which there are plenty of other different virtual world spells and also virtual world traps that we run in the deck, making Lulu very, very viable in the deck for the fact that it's also a tuner monster being used for a good majority of the different synchro summons you'll want to go through in the deck also. As a backup to Lulu for the level 3 monsters, I also run 3 virtual world Nyan. I'm guessing it's going off, I've said it before, going off the play of it looking like a cat. If a level 3 monster is normal or special summoned to your field while this card's in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can only special summon level or rank 3 higher monsters, which is a big limitation for the good majority of the virtual world cards. And if this card is banished, you can target one of your other banished cards and shuffle it into the deck. You can only use each effect of Nyan once per turn. So, once again, easy setup in the graveyard. If this card's set up for other cards like Lulu, you can then just have the different options for special summoning it back onto the field and using the 2 either for a level 6 synchro or even overlaying to go into a rank 3 Xyz play. I also run the 3 virtual world Gigi. If this card is in your hand, you can target one virtual world card you control and one virtual world card of a different type, monster, spell, trap from your deck to the graveyard. If you do special summon this card, and then during the end phase, you can add one virtual world monster from your graveyard to your hand, except for Gigi. And for the rest of this turn, you can only special summon off of the same restriction. But the graveyard setup gives you more options to add back to your hand to use. Gigi just also helps for more setup in the graveyard. Some of your other virtual world spell or traps, which definitely do benefit from being in the graveyard, which we'll go over when we get to the spell and traps. But being a level 3 monster also helps for the fact that cards like Nyan becomes a tuner and Lulu being a tuner, you need the different options for the synchro summon using these non-tuner monsters. And then for some of the level 9 options, because we do have some level 9 synchro monsters in the deck, that can be pretty easy to summon out, like Virtual World QB Shen. Being able to use our higher level Virtual World monsters like Lao Lao. If this card is in your hand, being able to target a Virtual World card on your field, which is the main setup you're going to want to go for a good majority of these cards. Sending another one, and then special summon this card, then being able to special summon one Virtual World monster from your graveyard in defense with a different name than the card sent to the graveyard, makes this card a definite 3 of, just for the fact that you have different options for summoning out different cards onto the field to use. Most of the time, you want to go for a tuner option, because then you can use the 2 for a synchro and then have that play. But if you have a different level 6 setup on the field, you even have the rank 6 options, which you can use your other synchros and along with these other different cards also. And then for one of the newer monsters that I run in the deck, I also run 2 Virtual World Otohime Tutu. If you control no monsters or all monsters you control are psychic and or worm monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. If this card is in your graveyard, you can discard one psychic or worm monster to special summon this card as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon except for level or rank 3 or higher monsters. So this is just great consistency, being a graveyard setup for the fact that you can also shuffle it after being banished with cards like Nyan means you just keep keep on keeping the resource going with this card. And being a non-tuner works very, very well with Lulu for whichever play you need to go for. And having any of the other monsters in the field opens you up to, depending on what you want to summon in your extra deck, using your 2/2 as well. And being just an easy normal summon or just a discard from your graveyard by discarding a psychic or worm monster can set up other ones in your graveyard for you to summon back out while easily summoning 2/2 back after you've already used it on the field as a resource. And for the rest of the Virtual World monsters in the main deck, I also run 2 Virtual World Kirin Lili. Being in your hand, you can target a virtual card you control and send 4 more setup, then send 1 virtual card of the 3rd type from your deck to the graveyard for the rest of this turn, having the same special summon restriction for this card being a worm type monster, a level 6 option, while your GG was a level 3 option for the worm type monster. Just good for the level adjustment to have this different option available to you. I only run the 2 though, more the fact that you have to have your setup on the field. So opening up some of these higher level monsters, you're not as restricted with cards like 2/2 being able just to normal summon it out if you have the other cards set up on the field, but not as openly available with cards like Lili. For the hand trap option, which is what finishes off the monster count in the main deck, I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, and also testing out, which I'll be seeing if I'll be running more often or not in my deck profiles, the 3 Skullmeister. I've become a big fan of this card just with practice. Because of all the different graveyard effects that your opponent may have. When a card or effect is activated in your opponent's graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to negate that effect. And it's not a once per turn as well. If you have multiples of this card, you can keep on using this card if your opponent attempts to keep using cards in their graveyard. If you don't want to run Skullmeister, you can try Ghost Ogre. It's a psychic option for the deck as well, and also an emergency teleport target if need be, but Ash Blossom's just good for stopping any of your opponent's searches, while Skullmeister takes care of the graveyard plays. But you have plenty of other options as well. Nibiru didn't get hit on the list, so you have that as a resource to choose instead of Skullmeister or Ghost Ogre. The choice is up to you. And that's it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. We have plenty of different Virtual World spells, one of them being Virtual World City, Kowloon. Place 1 Virtual World Gate card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. Then you can apply any of the following effects in sequence based on the number of Virtual World Gate cards you control. If it's 2 or more, all Virtual World monsters you control gain 200 attack this turn. 3, send the top of the cards of your deck to the graveyard. Or 4, special summon up to 4 Virtual World monsters with different names from your extra deck. So if you have this last option, that's pretty powerful, especially. But most of the time, you'll just get for the graveyard setup and the additional search for some of your other Virtual World Gate cards that you can set up on the field. We had some new options from Blazing Vortex as well with the traps, but having this available to you just makes this card a definite 3 of just for the additional graveyard search and giving you another card on the field to use, which one of them is your Virtual World Gate, King Long. You can banish 1 Virtual World card from your graveyard, then target 1 face-up monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Even if the card leaves the field, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Virtual World monster from your deck to your hand, then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of King Long once per turn, but setting this card up that easily with Kowloon makes it then you can just have more monster setup in the graveyard. You can have the effect negation for a monster on the field, so stopping some of your opponent's plays. This card works very, very well for that setup, and having more search power in the graveyard by being able to banish this card makes it an optimal choice for our next spell option, which is Foolish Burial Goods. Just being able to send King Long to the graveyard to then banish it for the search is why I like running 2 of this card, because if we need the specific monster option, we have all of the monsters at the ready by using this card for the play. And for some of the one-ofs for the spells, I still like the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, the 1 Call by the Grave, and the 1 Emergency Teleport, being able to go for a good number of our psychic options in the deck. Don't forget some of the monsters are worm, so you won't be able to search them, but having plenty of other options with Emergency Teleport as a great addition to any psychic type relied deck. And then for the traps, I'm running still decided to run 2 of the Virtual World Gate Shushu, since you can search this card and set it up with Kowloon. You only need the 2, and you can target 1 face-up card on the field, shuffle 2 of your banished Virtual World cards with different names from each other into the deck, then destroy that card, and during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a Virtual World monster you control, and you increase or decrease its level or rank by 3 until the end of this turn. So a lot of the rank and level adjustment definitely does come in handy for some of the other cards we run in the extra deck to go into with that setup. But just having this option available to you is a great extra addition, and the fact that you can set it up with the spell makes it that much better. And then the new one we run is the new Virtual World Gate, Zhanwu. During the battle phase, if you control another virtual gate card, you can target one face-up monster on the field, change its battle position, and during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target one virtual world monster in your graveyard, special summon it but negate its effects, then send one card from your hand to the graveyard. So, more resources on the field to use. Even though its effects are negated, you're still going to be able to just use it for, synchros, exceeds, you name it, and once again, another card to set up with our virtual world city. And then to finish off the traps in the main deck, I also run the 3 infinite impermanents. It's just a choice of mine for the effect negation. We were going pretty meta heavy with the deck, which is what I wanted to focus on since this is a pretty competitive deck. So just the trap option of choice. If you don't have infinite impermanents, you can always increase the numbers of some of your other traps in the deck and the monster count to make up for not having this card at all. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck for the synchro options for the virtual world, I'm running 2 virtual world beast Yugioh. With this one, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while you have 2 or more monsters in your graveyard with the same original type and attribute but different names. And you can banish 2 monsters from your graveyard with the same original type and attribute but different names, then target one card on the field and send it to the graveyard. So the fact that it sends it to the graveyard is basically a big benefit. It gets around, destruction, nullification, and also just being able to get rid of pesky cards that would normally not be able to be destroyed. For some of the other synchros, I also run 1 Coral Dragon, 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, and 1 Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Excuse me. I was basically going off of all these different virtual world monsters and the same monster effects. It definitely puts a strain for sure. But with these level 6 synchro monsters, once again, limited to some of your synchro plays, but a big plus for sure when you can summon these cards out. For the bigger monsters, I run the 1 Virtual World QB Shenshen. Now, this can be an additional number if you didn't want to run the tech card that a lot of people were hyping over in the deck, and that is X-Saber Gotams. This card needs 1 tuner and 1 or more Earth monsters to make it. So, excuse me, even with the limitation, you don't have to worry about using tuners. That's the one thing about Golems. You can still use tuners for the Earth monster part of this card, but it's a tribute of itself to discard a random card from your opponent's hand as a level 9 synchro option to go into. If you didn't want to run it, like I said, just put in an additional Shenshen to make up for this card. I also run the 1 Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. When you can make it with the level 3s, it's a good card to rely on. And when having multiple synchros, the 1 Ultimea, Zulkin, definitely does come in handy for the just base power unit of this dragon on the field. And that is it for the synchros, and I move on to the exceeds. I run the 1 Virtual Shell Jaja, a rank 3 for the virtual world setup, along with Long Long, just very, very useful for the plays when you can go into them for all the different virtual world setup. And then for some of the other ones, I run the 1 Virtual World Phoenix, Fanfan. The rank 6 plays with this card, very, very useful. And just being able to rely on it when you have the higher level Virtual World monsters on the field is a big plus for sure. To just overlay into this card and also being able to attach to a target face-up card on the field. And either one card, either banish it. And if the Exceeds card is destroyed by battle or by opponent's card effect while in the monster zone, you can special summon 2 Virtual World monsters of the same type and attribute, giving you more resources to use on the field. For the generic Exceeds monsters, I run the 1 Totem Bird. When I can go and use the wind monsters especially, it helps just to have a spell or trap negation against my opponent. And the 1 Phantom Fortress, kind of making up for the true King of all calamities with this rank 9. I would not say it's as good, but still just an option to use with your level 9 synchros on the field. And lastly, the 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder for being able to go over some of your Exceeds monsters with this card as a final boss finisher move. If you don't have this card, you can always increase the number of one of your other Exceeds that you run in the deck. I know it's kind of a pricey card at the moment, but just another option I wanted to run since I was already running the Impermanence and some of the other more expensive cards in the deck. But if you are going to invest in this deck, it's definitely good to run some of the more essential cards all together. And then as for the go-to plays, relying on the setup for a lot of your different spells on the field can give you a virtual world card on the field to then rely on, because then if you activate and set King Long, and if this card's in your hand, being able to target a virtual world card you control and send a virtual world card of a different type from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card. So depending on what you then send to the graveyard can give you additional search there as well. And then having the option for the special summon means you can then normal summon out 2 Tutu having a virtual world, and then either being able to use the tuner to then go into a level 9 synchro play, or even have some other options available to you with other, virtual worlds that you may open up. It just depends on what monsters you open up and what you're willing to go for the play against your opponent, whether you have to send cards, negate monster effects to attack over them. That's the interesting part of the virtual world deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.